Hello, how are you doing? Good evening and a very warm welcome to youtube.com/Wi-Fi sheep with me, Tom. And apologies for being 2 minutes late. Anyway, how are you doing? Thank you so much for joining me for our weekly live stream right here on the channel. I hope you're doing well. Got a few things to get through tonight. Now, before we go any further, you will have to excuse me. This is going to sound like the worst excuse in the world, but just bear with me. I have had one hell of a week. I am really tired. I almost didn't make it on tonight. I thought, I sort of got comfy sitting downstairs, and I was like, shall I? I thought, no, people are waiting. So, yeah. So I thought I better show up. So probably good that I did, really, because we've got a few things we need to talk about and a few things I'd like to do tonight. So I'm just looking down there. So I've got a collection of things there. I've got a collection of things down there I want to show you. So yeah, plenty to do, plenty to talk about right here on tonight's, I should say, live stream. But before we do all that, do you have a need for reliable and cost-effective web hosting for your blog, business or personal website? If so, then look no further than Cheap Host UK. Cheap Host UK's basic plan starts from only 58p per month. That's £6.99 a year. And if you're needing a little bit more, Cheap Host UK's premium packages start from £1.41 per month or £16.99 a year, complete with a free .co.uk domain. New customers can also take advantage of an extra 10% discount when purchasing any first-time hosting package or domain name from Cheap Host UK. Use discount code SHEEP, that's SHEEP, to get an extra 10% off. For reliable, cost-effective web hosting and domains, look no further than Cheap Host UK. Full details and an affiliate link are in the description to this video. So, as always, a huge thank you to Cheap Host UK, our sponsors here on 8 till 8 from youtube.com/Wi-Fi sheep. The full details to the offer is in the description to the video. So remember, that's discount code SHEEP, that's SHEEP, for 10% off on all domain names and web hosting packages. And we should also say thank you to our members. There they all are. These are the brilliant people that back me right here on Wi-Fi sheep, and they continue to do so over on Patreon. So you can join them on patreon.com/Wi-Fi sheep, or alternatively, if you want to stay right here on YouTube, you know the drill by now. There is the free tier support for YouTube channel members, starting with base support from 99p all the way up to mid support at £2.99, and that will be converted into your local currency. If it can't be, you'll see it in US dollars. So yes, I'm just about keeping it together. I said it's been a busy week. I could spend all stream just complaining about my week because it has actually been that bad. We'll say hello in the chat to Martin, Andrew, and Michael, the regulars that join us. Hello, people. Thank you so much for being with me again this evening. I hope you're all doing well, and I hope you've had a slightly more productive week than I have. Okay, well, I say productive week. That's probably not quite fair. It has been a productive week, but at work, which is Harper-NET University, it was student hand-in day for the second years on something called electronic control systems, which is a module they do as training engineers. So basically, I work with training engineers at university level, and it seems like the entire course group had decided to leave it to the very last minute. So I get in Monday morning, and there's just sheer chaos and panic as everyone is trying to rush this practical assignment work in the lab on the sort of, the 11th hour kind of thing. And I mean, I won't go into the finite details of it, but needless to say, I can remember being sort of, I don't think I ever got anything exactly late, but when I was a student, I can remember being the panic of hitting deadlines. I don't know what's worse, being the student or now being the staff on the other side of this sort of academic divide, if you like. And oh yeah, so quite a day. We should also say Happy Chinese New Year, Year of the Dragon. There's been a big thing with we've been doing Chinese New Year celebrations at work. We have quite a large Chinese student population that are with us, overseas and research students, etc. So I have been taking part in a couple of events which are put on by the university, obviously for the overseas students. Well, it's for everybody, but it's primarily for the overseas students, so they kind of can celebrate their culture and they feel at home, and it's quite fun. So I was actually invited by we have a research student who's come over from, I forget the Chinese university she's come from, but she's with us on placement, sort of equivalent of PhD level, and she invited me to one of the sessions being put on, and it was a dumpling, traditional Chinese dumpling making. And I did have some photographs. Unfortunately, I haven't managed to get them. I was going to get them loaded up tonight. I might still manage that by the end of the stream, but I haven't done it right now. But anyway, so we did that in the commercial food research kitchens of the university. So it was like, full chef's overalls on, white coats, hairnets, all the rest of it. First time I've ever done that. And we went into this kitchen, proper commercial kitchen, so stainless steel tables and workbenches and that kind of thing, as you'd expect for a commercial kitchen. And basically everybody bar myself, and I think everyone else was either the staff or there might be one or two other students, but basically everyone else was originated from China, effectively. And they all knew what to do. Because apparently, I asked a couple of questions, and apparently this traditional Chinese dumpling making is something that families do to celebrate this holiday. So it's a skill that a lot of them have had from a very young age, being brought up by home. So all these students seem to know exactly what to do and just formulated themselves into this almost perfect production line. And oh my goodness, did I just feel completely out of place. I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. So then I'm getting orders by this PhD student who I'm spent most of the year helping. So the order me is like, Tom, do this, Tom, do that. And I'm like, okay, fine, yes, whatever, I'll do it. So, yeah, so that was quite interesting. And yeah, I mean, it's good that the uni did that, really. So I don't mind. I honestly, as you know, I'm quite close working ties with Chinese technology firms, as you know from the products that have been reviewed here on the channel. So I obviously don't mind taking an interest in Chinese culture. There's obviously benefits to doing so. So yeah, that was fun. So if you are watching and are celebrating, then once again, Happy New Year, and we are now Year of the Dragon, apparently. I know there's been a few fireworks going off around here tonight. Sorry, that's my beer mat. Second thing you might notice, I have some new glasses that I'm still getting used to. I literally have these. I picked these up today. So this is prescription, which they had ready for me. So I went into town, have these picked up today. I have a pair. I have 3 new pairs. One's the sunglasses. There's these, and then I have another pair that are more similar to my old glasses that you're more used to seeing. I took a risk with these. I'm not sure at the moment, but these were like it was an offer for like 3 pairs, including sunglasses, and the cheapest was free. So these haven't cost me anything. These are free technically. So I thought, okay, we'll go with something a little bit different. I can certainly see a lot better. My old prescription on the glasses you're used to seeing me wear was nearly 10 years old. I was going to say over 10 years old. It wasn't. It was like 9 and something, but it's nearly 10 years old. So, yeah. Long overdue new glasses, I'm afraid. But, so, yeah, we'll see how these do. So far, Anna, my fiancée, is the only person who's seen me in them other than the staff at the optician. Seems to think they're okay. I don't know. It's an adjustment. I sort of like them. I'm not sure. I don't know. Oh, well. We'll see. Right. Should we talk about some technology? That might be an idea. Okay. Let's just go over to. Oh, I set this up, didn't I? Hang on. Just there we are. You can imagine this bit hasn't happened. There we go. All right. Let's have a quick chat about the 400 Mini, the Atari 400 Mini from Retro Games Limited. We talked about this when it was announced, and I've made a video about it on the channel separately. So I have a pre-order for this unit in place. Now the games list was announced, and also Atari themselves are now pushing the product as well. So let's just have a look at the Atari site. So this is for the US market, so it actually gives you the price in US dollars. Pretty much the same thing. But what I will say is rather interesting. If we go to, where are we? If I just scroll down. First of all, the games have been announced. We'll come to that in a moment. I just want to show you. There we go. Specifications. Now this is kind of interesting. So they've actually indicated the RAM on the system. So 256 megabytes flash, and 256 megabytes, which I think is the RAM. Flash capacity is 128 megabytes. Processor, Allwinner H3, and there's your connections. So interestingly, so the 5 USBs, 4 of which are going to be the USB A's on the front, and 1 USB-C, which is power in on the back, and of course you've got the HDMI cable for video. So I think that's effectively, it's the same board that went in, correct me if I'm wrong here, the C64, the full-size one. I know the Mini had, what did the Mini have in it? The Allwinner A, I should know this because we literally looked at the Mini PCB the other day for the C64. Can't remember now, but yeah, so it's not a huge specification by modern standards, but that's all you need to run a shell Linux operating system, an emulator, and then run your games on top. So it will be the Allwinner H3, if I remember correctly. Let's just do a quick search of that. Where are we? I just want to get the specifications for the Allwinner H3. Yeah, ARM Cortex A7. So that's 64-bit chip. Yeah. So it's a pretty standard chip, really. It's an ARM processor, licensed ARM core for the Cortex line. Combined GPU, so Mali 400 GPU. So this is kind of the same chip we've seen on Banana Pi uses it. I think Orange Pi, some Orange Pi products use it, but a lot of Orange Pi products now are moving over to the Rockchip ARM CPUs. But I also know that the Nintendo systems used, I think what did they use? The H2, I think they used. The Nintendo Mini, the NES Mini, sorry, and the SNES Mini used the H2, I think it was, Allwinner. So it's a known entity that has been used by some big names, so it's not a surprise. Let's just go back. And yeah, so you get small amount of RAM, small amount of flash space, which is all you need really. Yeah, so no surprises there. It's not difficult now to make a product. You're using it almost exactly the same board and just the same setup, and you can rebadge and shape-shift it and repackage it into whatever you want. So, you know, turning a C64 Mini into an Atari 400 Mini is not difficult to do. And no doubt this will be hacked in no time at all, and no doubt there'll be unofficial bootware for it. You'll be able to run all sorts of emulators on it, just like we saw with the C64. But yeah, I'm still looking forward to it. By the way, if you're chatting away, I can't see that at the moment. So, all right. Compared to the original hardware, yeah. Andrew Deers just saying compared to the original hardware, the H3 is a bit. Yeah, that's very true. Yeah. The all winner is obviously, it's gonna it's a supercomputer compared to the 6502 original of the original time, but that's what it'll be emulating. So yeah, I mean, we all know now that ARM chips are extremely cheap. So it's a cheap board. It's a chip that's used in, well, it says marketing for home entertainment systems. So it's set-top boxes. Possibly some smartphones might use this, and obviously we've seen the clone Raspberry Pis that use your winners. So yeah, it makes sense. Let's just have a look at retro games, because retro games announced the games. So he says they did announce the games. I know that because I read the list. News. I am going around in said circle. Hang on. Don't panic, people. We'll just have to go. Let's try that again. The 400 mini games list. There we are. Okay, here we go then. So, I've got to be brutally honest with you. A lot of these don't mean an awful lot to me, or I've heard of them, but I don't have any nostalgic sort of feelings towards them, let's say. So, Airball, Asteroids, Basketball, Battlezone, Berserk, Boulder Dash, Bristol? I can't even know how to pronounce that. Bristles, sorry. Yeah, Bristles. Duh. Capture the Flag, Centipede, Crystal Castles, Eureka Glide, oh Jesus, Encounter, Flip and Flop, Henry's House, Hover Bother, Lee, Mule, Millipede, Minor 2049er, Missile Command, O'Reilly's Mine, the Seven Cities of Gold, Star Raiders 2, Wavy Navy, and Yomp. Yeah. Don't get a tired dyslexic to start reading stuff out live on air. That's my excuse. Apologies if I've not pronounced any of that right. So some of these I'm sort of familiar with. Others, I mean, Asteroids is like, yeah, okay, we've all played Asteroids in one form or another. Boulder Dash, yes. Battlezone, yes. I'm assuming some of these aren't. Missile Command, yes. I'm assuming some of these are probably kind of rebrands or copy clones of other existing IP. But yeah, it looks interesting. And I think the fact is we're not just locked to this list. We can add our own ROMs via USB stick, as we were able to with, or disk images rather, with the C64 and C64 Mini. So that, again, it kind of opens up an interest. What I do need to know is, assuming you can get hold of the basic cartridge ROM, you should be able to run BASIC, so it should technically be programmable. But yeah, so interesting, and we'll see. Well, it's going to come, should be shipping next month, so it's February the 10th today. Interestingly, that's episode 21 of 8 till 8 for season 2. So we've been doing this not consistently for 21 weeks. I've had a couple of weeks off here or there, but I've been pretty much here for the last 21 weeks so far. So we should have this very soon, and I'll obviously be making a video when I get my version. Yes, so yeah, looking forward to that. We'll see how we do. Other thing I want to talk about is I want to do a little bit on Tiny Basic Computers this evening, so we'll do that shortly. Staying on that theme, bit of show and tell time. I've got a few things that I've been buying that I can show you, or can attempt to show you. So, I have bought one of these, which is a Key Studio branded version of the Arduino Nano, which you're probably thinking I've got loads of Arduino Nanos, and you're quite right, I do. So why have I bought this particular one? Well, I'll be brutally honest with you. The only reason for buying this particular one is the colour scheme. Is the black and yellow colour scheme. Other than that, there's no technical advantage to owning it. If I can even get it out of the box. I can't even get that out of the box. Hang on. Being stubborn. Ah, there we go. Yeah, so it's a clone Nano. Cost about £10, which I will openly admit is expensive for clones. You can usually get these for a couple of pounds or dollars. But yeah, I wanted one which was black and yellow, basically, for an idea for a Tiny Basic Computers build. So a lot of what you're going to see is black and yellow in colour scheme. I also bought another breadboard type power supply, which you can get that out. It's got, unfortunately, got hooked on the. There we go. And again, in a black and yellow type scheme. Do you see a theme here? I also bought, now these were quite interesting. I bought these, which are solder versions of the solderless breadboards. So you know how we normally use the solderless breadboards. And I'll just show you this rig that we're going to look at in a minute. You've seen this before, but I'll show you again. So this is the solderless breadboards. Well, this is pin compatible and works exactly the same, but it's solder based, so it's a lot cheaper. And again, these are deliberately been bought with a black PCB silk screen, and I bought a couple of these. So basically what I'm thinking of doing is building a new, this would be a Tiny Basic system as opposed to a Project Rio. But I'm also thinking of doing a build in a kind of, I think, being black or yellow, basically. So I think it'd be really sort of neat. One of these kind of show boards. So for power, that would kind of sit like that. And then you'd have a board next to it, and that would have the processor on. And then you'd have a board next to that, and that would be your video terminal circuitry. And then they'd be linked together through a mixture of yellow wire wrap wire and also yellow jumper wire that I would sort of solder, but do it really neat for show. So it becomes like a sort of color-coded, color-coordinated show PCB. So that's kind of what I'm thinking of doing at the moment. I did buy a few other things as well. So I also bought this, which I want to have a play with. And did I open this? No, I didn't. Interesting. I thought I had. Hang on. That hasn't worked. Let's get some scissors out. Okay. There we are. So this is, well, you can see what it is. It's a really simple keypad. And the reason I bought this, again, it's about £2 something off, I think it's eBay this came from, arrived the other day. And the reason I bought this is that I want to experiment with building my own keyboards for Tiny Basic or Project Rio systems. So what I thought I'd do is I'd buy one of these off the shelf, because I couldn't make that for £2. So it's not a full keyboard, it's just a keypad, but it has columns and rows, which you can see here in C&R marked on the silk screen. So the plan is to have another Arduino microcontroller, possibly another Atmega 328P, sort of like a Nano or just a chip on its own, and use that to drive reading these pins. So it should read if I write the correct code to read the pins and the buttons, then this would be the embryo for what would be a full-blown custom keyboard that we could actually then build, which means I wouldn't be reliant on off-the-shelf keyboards. Now, off-the-shelf USB keyboards are fine. As you know, with doing tiny basic systems, you need to have PS2 protocol on board, which not all USB keyboards have, and they certainly don't advertise themselves as being compatible, which is annoying. Project Rio is less of a problem because the Raspberry Pi component does that USB processing for you, so you can use a USB keyboard there. I am sort of playing around with the idea of, I've gone back to looking briefly at the Tiny Basic builds, and that's where, again, this rig comes in that I will talk about shortly. And I've managed to run the Project Rio kernel, and I've backdated it to run from the Mega back to the Nano. So we've reduced the RAM. We're still running at the same processor speed, but we've reduced the EEPROM, we've reduced the RAM. But I have managed to keep most of the kernel, which means these technically, or this board here rather, and there's the clone, much cheaper clone Nano on this board. This is technically running Project Rio's basic kernel, but it's running it as a Tiny Basic system, and here we have a analog video terminal, black and white. Now, the advantage of that is you do get the improvements that were made from the Tiny Basic to Project Rio, but it also means that if you tapped the TX RX UART lines, which is RS232 serial, you could actually tap a Pi straight on this, or you could tap another type of terminal, such as ESP32, or even Raspberry Pi Pico, the RP2040 chip. So you could actually drive from a different terminal without actually needing to use a full-blown Raspberry Pi unit, which I know many people criticised me for. So that's kind of what I'm thinking, and I am thinking of a new build. Again, one it's as I said, more of a showpiece, and I'm also thinking about the building of a custom case. And I did go out and buy. I need to zoom the camera out, but hang on. Right, I did go and buy some more foam board, and this stuff we've used before to build cardboard computers, and I was going to use this to mock up a case. Basically, I've got this idea for a case for well, a universal case actually, so it's not just for this project, but it could be fitted to any other project, or board could fit inside it. But before I go and 3D print something, or design something in CAD to be 3D printed, I thought it might be a good idea just to mock up with foam board, which is cheap and easy to use. You can cut it and glue it with hot mount glue, or PVA wood adhesive works fine with it. And I thought I'd have a go at building a new prototype case, something that, again, it would be in sort of black and yellow, that would then fit the black and yellow internal board I want to build. So, and then with this, I was thinking we'd probably use an off-the-shelf USB keyboard to start with, but I would then think about custom building a keyboard as well. So effectively, you'd have up to 3 microcontrollers. So you'd have the processor running the basic kernel. You'd have the video board, assuming we're just going to use the black and white board, where we could add additional terminals. So we could add ESP32s, or as I said, Raspberry Pi Picos we could add. And then you'd have a third controller board sort of up here somewhere, actually generating the keyboard, and it would just dump the letters. So it would know if you press like A or something, it would know, and it would just dump the ASCII value for A onto the UART line, RS232 serial. So this would then just see an A appearing, and so would a terminal. So that's how it would work. So we wouldn't be using a PS2 connection, wouldn't be using a USB connection for passing keyboard data anymore. We'd literally be processing that on a separate board and just passing it on the serial loop that the entire system or machine would have. So that's kind of my thinking. Soldering iron has just gone flying. So these are the new bits I've bought for this. Not hugely expensive, but this was a bit on the pricey side. Yeah, so just because I've got this idea about it being a a show board, so it all has to be neat and color coded. But yeah, might be might be a bit mad. But I bought this because I thought that's easier than us trying to make our own power supply again. Do you remember how many weeks we did that and it was just a disaster? So at least with this, you can take I think it's up to 9 volts DC in. You can power off 5 volts USB as well. There is a power switch, and it has voltage there we are. Stay on camera. Two voltage regulators here and here, and you've actually got jumpers. You can switch from 5 volts to 3.3 volt TTL logic as well. So I think I had one of these. I blew it up. So not intentionally, just it was a slight accident. I was running off my bench power supply, and didn't realise what a decimal point was. So instead of putting 5 volts through, I put 50 volts through it. And let's just say it wasn't massively happy, as you might expect. So this is all stuff we're going to be playing with. I could do probably with playing with this on the channel, actually, especially trying to make a little keyboard work. Zanzi is on there. Is it Zanzi? Zanzi? Blowing things up sounds like good content. Yeah, what, like what's his name? Electric Boom, is it? Yeah, the Iranian chap. Yeah, I think it's Iranian. Yeah, I know. I don't intend to do. I could easily go down that clickbait road, but I don't know. I think with YouTube, you either go for flash in the pan content. We talked about this before. You either go for flash in the pan type content for clicks and views, or you do like I'm doing and go for the long run in the hope it pays off one day. Admittedly, it's been 7 going on 8 years now. We're still not quite there, but yeah. I also bought some. I won't get it out, but I also bought some yellow pin header. So I've got yellow pin header for adding bits. So this, yeah, going to be an interesting project. And I'm thinking about future shows and exhibitions sort of going forward. Speaking of which, well, I remember. Oh, excuse me. An event I run at my place of employment, Harper-NET, Computing and Electronics Club, is running again next week. So that'll be on the 15th of February. 2014. Where are we? 2024, sorry. Full details that are in the description to this live stream or video, or if you're very quick, you can have a go at scanning that QR code, see if it works, or you can hop over to facebook.com/Harper-NET. If you're in the kind of West Midlands, Central England, Shropshire, North Staffordshire kind of area, and would like to meet for an evening, it's free. We're in the technology labs at Harper Adams Uni, which is where I work. I'm there. I'm pretty much running it. I do run it. I organise it. And yeah, you just need to book a ticket. And for the first time ever, this one is actually open to the public. So the previous ones we've ran as trial events have been very much for students and staff because we've been sort of trialling it. But this was the first time I had permission from the management to actually allow non-university staff or students to come on campus to take part. So if you are in the area and are interested, then you will need to book a ticket. It's free to book, but you do need to register with Eventbrite, and all the details are on a link which you can follow through from Facebook or in the description. I think the Eventbrite link is in the description to this video right now, and that has all the information about maps and where it is, how to register your car. If you do want to bring a car onto the campus, you do need to register your car, basically, because otherwise they start issuing tickets and fines and all sorts of things. So yeah, so anyway, that's happening. So if anyone can make it, that would be brilliant and amazing. I might, if I have times, I'm very busy running that, I might try and shoot some videos of at least some photographs or something to let you know how it went. We'll also have we'll have some content I'm bringing. We're also going to have robots and things from the university themselves there, and there might even be an impromptu tour of the workshops so you might get to see some other robotic vehicles and things, possibly see how the day goes. So yeah, do go and check that out. Okay, just having a look in the comments. Would they let you stream it? Maybe a future idea. Yes. It's not impossible. We could. It's not impossible. I'm going to say probably not this one, just because it's a bit short notice, because I'd have to let people who book know, because of data protection, privacy acts, that kind of thing. But it's not impossible. No, we might be able to stream something, at least one of the main route. Depends if it gets too big, because I've got we've got one of the electronics labs. I say classrooms, but they're labs for students to use, and I've got this space available. But we also have next door in the same building, we have a lecture theatre, proper traditional, road seating lecture theatre. It's a huge space, actually, about 250 seat capacity or something. So it's like the size of a small cinema. And I do have that space available. So if we did have talks and things, I think if we had like a special guest or talks, then I would at the very least make an effort to record it. We should be able to stream. There's no reason why we couldn't stream. I've got staff clearance for the Wi-Fi, so I can log in and pretty much do what I want with the Wi-Fi. So yeah, we haven't really got any formal. It's a very kind of informal. People just show up for things and we all chat. And there's no set agenda or anything like that. So I'm going to be taking the BBC Micro down, and I'm going to be taking to show you this contraption down, which we're going to have a little play with now. And once we've done that, I'm going to do a tiny bit of work live on streams. I've been dumpster diving again. And basically, this is again work in the bins. Check this out. Relays, expensive relays, and I want to recover them. So this has literally come out. You see how dusty it is? This has come out the bin from the workshop, and there's probably there's screw pin header type stuck cable. I've got to remember what you call it, but there's stuff worth trying to take off this board to component recovery. There's even things like diodes and resistors and things that might be worth trying to take off as well. So I want to have a desoldering session. I also have got two of these, which have also come out the bin. These, believe it or not, are, let me see if I can show you that on the other camera. So these are the custom circuit boards that are, I say fourth year, our final year. It's a 4-year degree at Harper-NET if you want to be an engineer. So these are our final degree years, and they're building intelligent autonomous robot vehicles. So this is a PCB, actually designed by my colleague Sam Wayne, who is senior lecturer in mechatronics at the university. He designed this PCB, and the students basically have to populate the boards themselves. And it actually has a Arduino Uno that sits in this space. It is an Uno type shape that sits in here, and that's the microcontroller that drives the board. And there's also a voltage regulator, so it can take 7 volts battery power from like RC type remote control batteries, and it can then tap that down to 5 volts for the TTL logic. And you see how all the pins are broken out on the sides, and students basically have to design an autonomous vehicle on a RC remote control chassis, and they have to populate this board and solder it together themselves, and they then have to write code to drive all the servos, the motors, the sensors, that kind of thing. And there's a buggy challenge which is happening very shortly. I think it's beginning of next month. And there's an outdoor assault course that's been built, and these buggies have got to try and negotiate this course, and there's water and jumps and seesaws and all sorts. And they've all gone into teams, and I think it's going to be about up to 10 entries. And these are the boards that they were given. Blank PCBs. They had to do all the soldering themselves. And Yeah, I think this is a used one from the year before. But basically, these went in the bin. They took the microcontrollers off, obviously, but the rest of it went in the bin. And I was just looking at all things like all these, which although some are knackered, but I was like, component recovery, take these off, because, you know, basically the rule of thumb is here, if it's in the bin at work, then it's been scrapped. And me being me, I'll go along and, you know, I rescued a whole microcontroller, a Mega, the other month, if you remember, from the bin. So I thought, well, I'll have this as well. And, yeah, so we might do a bit of desoldering, see if we can take some of the parts off. I've got two of these, which in various states, similar, but various states that be worth trying to recover bits from. Anyway, there we are. So we might do that in a little bit. Okay, so this, which you might remember us talking about, it was a while ago. So this is my latest build idea for the original Tiny Basic computer system. You may remember we did it on a double 800 pin. If I got it, I've got the board around. Nope, it's gone walking. Oh no, tell a lie, it's here. Right. Okay, so this was pretty much the version that I built and finalised. This wasn't the same as the version that you saw on the YouTube series. This was a slightly later commercial version, was used and licensed to places like the National Computer Museum at Bletchley Park, and there was also a third-party commercial client who used something very similar to this specification. But this basically used the same kernel as what you had available for those of you that joined the Tiny Basic Computers project and downloaded the advanced Tiny Basic kernel from our Patreon. But basically what I did is I took Project Rio's kernel, which is based on the same code, and I downgraded it back to run on the Atmega 328P or the Nano board. I also looked at changing the form factor and came up with this, which has taken some features away but added some others whilst trying to keep the costs down. So this is the revised version, which you can see is still pretty much doing the same thing as this original. We've also now got more LEDs on than we did before, but you'll notice that the video side has been separated from the computer side. The reason being is it might be possible to, between you and me, I'm thinking about a retail version basically, which is why I'm sort of building like this. I'm also thinking about a casing solution, which make this look a little more like a mini Altair. So it'll be in a sort of a case scenario like that. So you have like a front panel, and then this is the back of the machine, if you like. So the advantage of this system is that we now have the full instruction set, or basically the full instruction set for Project Rio, which included a lot of additional commands and statements. It also allows you to have the flexibility to use other boards, as I said, so you don't have to use the Raspberry Pi with Pi GFX anymore. You could use other terminals if you want. And because it's Project Rio has a way that you can just send escape codes through the basic interpreter. So if it's not compatible with what we were doing with, for colour, for example, with Pi GFX, you could just send an escape code through for whatever the escape codes were for your terminal system. So it opens a whole level of flexibility. Plus that, as I've just said, it will be possible that this computer piece on the front can run standalone without needing this terminal piece on the back. I've also managed to increase the RAM, believe it or not. So I've squeezed some more bytes out. So we were stuck at 990, was it 998? Or did we? No, sorry, beg your pardon. 1023 bytes. So we were a byte short of a full 1K of RAM. I've now got 1,200 and something bytes. I found an extra 200 odd bytes of RAM just by recompiling how things work. So there's no extra hardware, and it's still the same stock Nano. It just gives you a little bit more memory that we've sort of squeezed out of the machine. So let's try powering that up. Now, I'm going to run out of composites. I'm going to use the stock. This is generating power, by the way. So this standalone Amiga 328p at the back, running at 16 megahertz with a crystal. This runs the video, or generated video, and that's all it does. It runs as the terminal, but it doesn't drive a keyboard. The Nano at the front, this chip is the same. That is the same chip as that, just a different form factor. So this one is the basic, and it also runs the keyboard driver. The USB is not USB, it's PS2, but if you run a compatible keyboard, USB keyboard, it has the PS2 driver, that will work. And also, it will run off 9-volt battery. So, in order for you to see anything, we need an adapter. So we're going to go from composite or CVBS to HDMI. HDMI cable is here. And we need to plug that into some power. And I do have a power supply just off camera over here. So that should now be powered up. Yeah, it is. So let's just make sure that you can see it as well, because you know we had a problem with the capture card. That's fine. Yeah. Actually want to be, that's the aspect ratio we want, because it's a 4:3 square aspect ratio. Okay, we might get some success tonight. So we just have to run composite. Now, unlike the others that had to have a separate cable, I've got these sockets which are really nice, and they just plug into the breadboard. So technically it's for sound as well. I might just actually use one. The sound isn't wired through, so it's just video, which if I remember I put on red. They're actually meant for audio. So, and they're a bit tight because they're new. So I think it's red. So we'll just go red. This is confusing. Red to yellow. Hopefully I've got that the right way around. And we can just take off-the-shelf battery, 9-volt battery, like the type you get in smoke detectors, fire alarms. Okay, that's on. And we have a power switch for the first time. So if I flick the power switch, there we go. No video, so I might be in the wrong socket. Let's just take that out. Have I put that in the wrong socket? And yes, there we go. Although saying that, my video is a little bit unstable. Interesting. There we go. Put it in the wrong socket, but we are a little bit jumpy. Oh no, there we go. Oh, might be a slight grounding issue. Oh, just died. Not to panic, let's just try that again. There we go. Yeah, it might be. It may be because I'm not on a mains power supply. So, ooh, come on. There we are. Sometimes this can be rock solid, and other times, like today, it can start playing silly buggers with you. Let's just tell you what, because I have a feeling if I ground this, it'll be fine. You know. You watch this. So. Oops, wrong camera. There we go. Right. So if I just take sort of like a sort of USB iPhone type charger like that, and USB cable like this, and we just go straight 5 volts straight into the Nano. Let's try that. Yeah. And if I just show you that on video, there you are. See, stable. Yeah, so it is a little glitchy with grounding. So because that's now might be my battery is a bit weak as well, which could be an issue. Yeah, so see how rock solid that is compared to what we had a moment ago. So that is basically the Tiny Basic kernel used for Project Rio running back as Tiny Basic. You will get a slight wobble with it. Also remember, we're not running shielded, so but there it is, and you can see how I have managed to get 1,276 bytes of extra RAM. So we are now over 1K. It's not a huge amount of RAM on this, admittedly, but it is there and it does work. So this is version 5.7.2c. It's not available at the moment, so for all of you that are on Patreon and backing me on this, it's not available just yet because I'm still playing with it, but I'm thinking this might form the embryo of basically I'm wondering about doing a kit, in all honesty. I know I said I wasn't going to, and I might still not, but I am thinking about the idea of a 2-part kit. So for building the world's simplest little computer. This, by the way, looks really cool on a mini CRT monitor like we had the other week with the ZX81 that we'll be getting back to, by the way, because those cables I was missing have arrived. So yeah, no, the wow, I'm just looking at the chat here. So sci-fi glitch effects. No, it's not effects. Those are real. That's genuine real glitching. Yeah. It's not 100% stable video signal, but it's close. You can also set that. This is PAL you're looking at. You can set it for North America to NTSC. There's no color signal, by the way, so it just runs in black and white. That is the resolution, and there's no graphics mode. We do have graphics for Project Rio. We don't have a graphics mode if you run off this terminal. Saying that, as I say, if you plug this into a different terminal that can support color and graphics and run escape codes, you could get this to run color and graphics and high resolutions and VGA and all sorts. So I want to kind of give that flexibility. Now, if I try plugging in, just seeing if I've got a keyboard handy. I do. So, the nice thing as well is it will run okay from 9-volt battery. So I am sort of thinking about not needing to have all this palaver of power supplies and what have you. I'm probably going to drop that down to a single RCA jack. So I probably won't take the, because it's not wired to do it at the moment, I won't take the audio through, because the audio is on. There's a buzzer for audio here, but you can take the audio through to RCA and then plug it into a TV or a monitor that would support it. My previous board, which I do have, which is this one here, which did make it to PCB. This is an early version of a Tiny Basic board. That does have a jumper that could switch it, basically, and you could actually go to RCA. And that was the format I did for that board. So you could have RCA for video and also audio. But I think for this, I'm conscious about the price, basically. I'm also thinking of not going with the breadboards and going with a custom solder PCB, just because it brings the price down and also makes life a little bit simpler. So I'm going to put a keyboard in. So it is a USB keyboard that's gone in, but it's going to run in PS2 protocol. That's the only issue, that you do need to have a keyboard that is actually PS2 compatible. I'm trying to think, do I have my adapters? So the only other way you could absolutely guarantee would be to have a PS2 keyboard. And I got these adapters. So PS2 one end, USB at the other end. And that would be the only way you could absolutely guarantee that you had a PS2 protocol. I'm quite lucky that these keyboards I have, although they're very cheap generic Chinese keyboards, they do actually have the USB and PS2 protocol. Right. Let's go back. So let's just see if anything is on. So can I remember how to do this? Nope, didn't see it. Come on. There we go. Right. Not happy with the keyboard, is it? Let's just try that again. Let's just try a reset. Keyboard's definitely wiring up. Yeah, this is kind of why I've not really announced this formally yet, because as you can see, it is rather buggy. It will work in a moment. It just needs to be, how can I put this, coaxed into life. So let's just make sure that we are plugged in okay. It doesn't help when you've got blue tack holding things together, so it's... What are we not happy about? Okay, let's just see if that's any better. You're saying it looks a bit like a VIC-20. Yeah, so VIC-20 had better graphics than this. It's about the same kind of power. Whereas the VIC-20, and actually a lot of the 8-bit machines, ran at sort of 1 megahertz. This is running at 16 megahertz. So in that context, it's actually a lot faster. Ah, there we are. Keyboard is now sprung into life. It must have been a loose connection. So let's see if I can... Nope, that's not the right one. Where is hash on this? Because my keyboard's not mapped, which doesn't help. Yeah, there we are. At least we're working. So let me just figure this out a moment. Might be it doesn't like the keyboard. We'll just try another keyboard a moment, because that one might be... We might be battling with issues that are more to do with the keyboard than they are. There's every reason why I want to build my own keyboard, basically. Let's try this one. There we go. There we go. There we are. Right. So something which I've implemented for Project Rio, which is the hash commands, are still in there. Remember, this is the Project Rio kernel. So basically when you go hash, you can say mem, it'll give you the memory. Something else I have done, now this is new for Tiny Basic Computers, is the ability to clear your screen. So CLS now works and it clears the screen. The way that works is there's physically a pin wired, so I believe it's this yellow lead here. Okay. And nope, I beg your pardon, it's not the yellow lead, it's one of the red ones, apologies. And basically what it does is when you say CLS, instead of an escape code, which it still sends by the way, but this terminal can't read escape codes. So what it does is it pulls one of the pins high, and when the terminal detects its pin being pulled high, which is this one here, okay, so it's this red lead here, which when that's pulled high, it clears the screen. And that's why you've got a pull down resistor here onto ground. So it's a sort of mechanical way of sending a signal outside of the RS-232 UART serial bus. So we're physically sending a signal, dedicated signal on this wire, which tells it to clear the screen. And that's how that now works. So you can clear the screen. So you can put any junk you want. Of course it won't like it. CLS, and it will actually clear. Now we can go, if I just go mem again. So we have got something in the EEPROM. So we've got a 1K EEPROM on the system. You see it has 127 bytes of user memory left. So we asked elist cannot remember for life what this program does. So if we go echain, there we go, we've got the demo programs in the system. So these are modified version of the demo programs. So I could, for example, say 2, which is binary. He says, although I actually now realise that's not going to work because this was changed so it doesn't read the keyboard. Whoops. Okay, I need to rethink that. It would work if we plugged into via USB into a external serial. That would work, but yeah. So I need to change that slight glitch in the code. Unfortunately, that should now be in the memory. Actually, it is. Yeah. So there is the basic code in the memory, and you see we have in-key statements. I just need to change how those work because I've realised what I've done now, which is whoops. It used to work. I've changed how it worked, so it doesn't. You press the number key and that won't actually do anything, which is annoying. Okay, so yeah, so not perfect, but better and relatively solid as well. There's still no delete, unfortunately. There is a delete on Project Rio, but there isn't a delete here as yet. So something I might be able to implement, but might need to work on that. So it is very much the case of you can't wipe your mistake. If you make a mistake on the line, so for example, if I go CLS new, just list to make sure there's nothing in. There we go. So we can run a program like 10 print. See, I've just made a mistake. This I've gone at instead of quote. So you just have to scrap the line, start again. 20, go to 10. Don't need an end, but I'll put an end on like so. So we can CLS list. There is the code in the machine. Getting a little bit of wobble. There we are. And there we are. And then we can escape to break. And we can do, we could change this program up a little bit. So we could say, actually, let's scrap again and go, okay, 10. A equals 0. 20. A will equal A plus 1. 30 print A. 40 go to 20. So we can list, make sure that's in memory. It is. Run. And there's a simple basic counting program. The funny thing about this is if you leave this running, it will get to the end of memory, so it will create the biggest number it can create. Bearing in mind we haven't got a huge amount, we've just got just over 1K of RAM, so 1,200 bytes of RAM effectively. So it will create the biggest number it can create, hit the top of memory, then it will start reducing the number, go to 0, then go into minus figures, go all the way down to the bottom end of memory, hit the bottom end of memory, and then come back up to the top. And it's just the quirk of how this particular version of Tiny Basic works. So yeah, I've ran this program quite a bit, and yeah, it's quite interesting. So we can just let's go to the list. So if I want to make a change, I can go retype a line 30 print A. Oops, not right. Hang on. 30 print A. There we go. Colon. There we are. And that's just adding a colon on the end of the print line. Just prints the number straight next to it instead of going to a new line at the end of the statement. So you can also then see what was the number it got to. So if we just ask it, you don't even have to type print actually. You can just go $A, and that will tell you the last number in A. So you don't need print. So $A : will work fine. And see how it's put the arrow prompt for basic straight after, because I put a colon, so it's now typing straight after. So yeah, the sort of common basic stuff works. What you can't do is you can't, for example, set up a variable or a string. So, for example, $A doesn't work. So you can only have variables. You can only have single letter variables as well. So you can have A to Z in single letter variables, and they can only hold a number. So you can't do a name input, for example, which makes text adventures a little awkward. If you wanted to write a simple text adventure, it does make life a little bit awkward. Basically, because you can't sort of type left or right. It wouldn't work. It would have to be a number. So you'd have to have sort of left or is 1, right is 2 kind of thing in order for it to work on the system. But yeah, fundamentally it works. And so I'm kind of umming and ahhing about doing a kit. I was going to do something with breadboards like this, so you didn't need to solder, but it's so expensive. And even with trying to bring the cost down, it's expensive. So I'm seriously thinking about getting PCBs done, and then giving people a flexible option, but kind of looking at something maybe in this form factor, possibly. And then from that, maybe looking at a production board. We've got to build a second Project Rio prototype as well, because we haven't looked at that in ages. So there might be a much larger Project Rio production board as well, possibly. I don't know. I'm thinking about it. I'm watching what's going on with things like the Commander X16 and that Argon or Argon Light board and other sort of project boards like that at the moment, just to see where the market's going. Am I competitive to those? No, absolutely not. Mine will be the weakest of the underdog and the weakest of all of them. But I'm more interested in an affordable, easy kit that allows you to build a little real 8-bit computer that you could actually, build at home, plug in as we have done here, and it would be more reliable if this was all soldered together, not just clip fitted. So yeah, I'll be interested to kind of sound other people out like yourselves watching, just to kind of see what you think. Price wise, I don't know. It's gonna be probably over 100. In all honesty, it's still going to be expensive for me to make. That was why I didn't do kits originally, because I always said that you'd be able to source the parts cheaper than I could sell them to you, which is why we did Tiny Basic Computers and Project Rio the way we do. That you drop me a small tip each month, as you do on Patreon, and I give you the instructions of what to buy and the code, and you go away and make it happen yourself. And that was always a much cheaper option. But part of me would like to maybe look at doing a small volume kit, but I'd kind of be looking about £100 to $120 US, possibly. If I get it cheaper and still make it worthwhile, I would, obviously. But that's kind of the ballpark I'm looking for. I'm not going to come in and say, £20 or $50 US, because it's not realistic. Because I don't have the manufacturing or the quantity, the purchase power to get components that cheap. And it's also the case of what do you strip out. I can make these cheaper than they would be by getting rid of these solderless breadboards and going with solder boards. Getting PCBs made is not expensive. A PCB like what I just showed you from our former sponsors that's upside down, but that was about 72 pence. The equivalent to about $1. So 72 British pence, $1 US, that board. The PCB cost. The components on it, that's the expensive part, because you could spend £30 on one of those. if you bought a branded one. So yeah, we'll have to see. But that's where I'd like to go. If we get there or not, I don't know. I'm thinking a cup of tea coming on, you know. I'll just check, is anyone still watching? Oh, some people are. It's when it goes quiet in the chat I start to get worried. I'm like, they've fallen asleep or they've gone. Oh, right, yeah. So, by the way, if there's any other questions or anything, anyone wants to chime in with anything, please, honestly, do feel free to. I've always said that. You can. There's absolutely no problem with that. But yeah, as I said, I'd be very, very... Oh, Andrew D saying, good idea, tea will be good. Yeah. Should I take an order? I could go down and get a tray. I could do some teas for everyone. Teas and coffees. Yeah, but no, generally speaking, I would actually be really interested in sounding any of you out to see what you'd feel about me doing a kit. I haven't done a kit yet. I don't know. I'd like to. I said I'm worried about the price being high. That's the problem. But maybe. I tell you what, right. Tea break. You can give me 10 minutes of your time. We'll go for a tea break and we'll reconvene. And then we'll go and do some component recovery and desoldering. Which will probably take up most of the evening. So I will be right back. Okay, I am back. Thank you so much, everyone, for waiting. Assuming anyone's left. Oh, yeah, a few are. Thank you so much for your patience and waiting. Fresh, nice cup of tea. Oh, that's better. Right, where are we at then? So, Andrew D, I got a NVMe board from Pyromi for my Pi 5. It's made a notable difference to performance. Ah, is that the board that... Is that the one that allows for solid state drive use, so you're not booting off the SD card? Would that be correct? I think that's correct. I said, don't make me go over there, Pyromi, and have a look. Because that's exactly what I'm going to do now, you know. Let's just have a quick look at that very quickly. So, Pyromi. Raspberry Pi. Ah, that one. Yeah, for the SATA interface. Which was my argument, that basically the Raspberry Pi should have done that from day one, and it didn't, which was just hellish annoying. And you know, if Pi 5 had come out with, yeah, for the SSD interface, so the little card that sits, which is not dissimilar to what we were doing with the UE2 X1 and R1, which did that on board as standard. So yeah, I could well imagine that makes a huge performance difference, because you haven't got the bottleneck of running off an SD card. I just think that, as I said before, I really wish Raspberry Pi 5 had done that kind of from the get-go. But I'm glad that's worked out for you anyway. That's good. I mean, probably something I need to look at myself, but it's another... Well, I suppose £39–40 isn't terrible, he says, for 250 gigabytes solid state storage. Yeah, depends what, again, and I always say this, it very much depends what you're using Raspberry Pi for. Because it depends on your use case. Yeah, so, but anyway, I'm glad that's worked out for you. Interesting. Could you imagine how much stuff like that would have cost had it existed 40 years ago? Or the equivalent, you know, 1 megabyte would be about $5,000 or something ridiculous. In like 1980 or something, yeah. Where most computers would have come with 16 to 32K. Have a megabyte of RAM. Anyway, right, let's do some component recovery, because that seems like a sensible thing to do. And I did say I was going to do it, and it's been on my to-do list for God knows how long. So let's just take a look at this board. So don't ask me what this did. I don't know. Just a huge piece of quite thick 5mm thick acrylic here, and then you've got this. I mean, I'm assuming it's it is a piece of upside down PCB, and we've got a couple of standoffs that's raising it above. I quite fancy seeing what I can take off this, in all honesty, because there's a fair few bits. It was sitting in the bin for quite a long time, and I saw it in the bin for months, actually before Christmas, and I was just like, no, I won't take it, because let's just cut these off. I won't take it because, you know, I'm not going to get around to recovery, and it's just more junk lying around. And then I kind of, for my my model railway project, suddenly had a potential need for relays, and relays are quite expensive. And I was like, if these relays do the trick and they're okay, assuming this board isn't fried. So let's just take the board off and have a look underneath. And oh, it's been a machine milled PCB, so it's not that would have been done in house. So it's actually a PCB made at the university by using a Dremel CNC tooling machine to actually drill tracks. So single-sided PCB. So you buy basically a copper board. So it's a single-sided copper board that's then been machine drilled. So that's quite interesting. So we've got this big piece of acrylic. Might be worth, you know, if you use that as a chopping board or a flat surface board or something. So might be worth kicking around, as you know, acrylic is expensive. So next question is, if I take a, where are we? Suitable flathead screwdriver, and let's just take these connectors off. And I mean, these connectors are kind of alright. I think they're the same type that the BBC Micro uses. I think they are, you know. So they might be worth something as well, especially if we do a power supply repack project in a BBC Micro Model B or something, which I've been umming and ahhing about doing. These could be very useful, and again, saves me buying off eBay. I said just went straight in the bin, this, which is kind of unreal when you think about it. I know you can't see, just off camera, just over here, just undoing some bits. So I might try and save those connectors. And there we go. Okay. So let's see if we can work on getting a relay. Which are these pins here? So the way I'm going to do this is got soldering iron here, which is heated up. Just clean the tip off. Fortunately, my good metal solder pump, I think it's in the toolbox, which is, I think, in the boot of the car. So I'll have to use this plastic one, which isn't going to be as good, but and already has quite a large chunk of solder. So let's see if we can. Oh yes, I think this is going to work okay. Again, it's always a bit easier when it's not machine soldered. I think they've got some solder braid or solder wick somewhere, which we might need to use. See if we can actually clean up. Oh. Yeah, okay. Bit of a fail. Just grab my pliers. Right. Oh, it's kind of loose. I think it would come out actually with. Oh yeah, there we are. Oh, look at that. That was a success. And there we go. A relay, which I assume works. I'll have to see what the regulation voltage. So where are we? Because it might be too much or too little, but what's Andrew? A few millimeters of silicon tube on the end of the solder sucker improves performance and extends an extra life. Sorry, stupid heart icon. It's right in the middle of the chat, so I hate the fact that's there, and I can never quite see the what's under it, which is always really annoying. But yeah, yeah. I mean, it's only a crap plastic one, so I don't. It's good advice, and I should probably do it with my nicer metal ones, but yeah, I don't really care about this plastic one. It is working quite well though. And Martin just saying I recover parts from old boards too, but I use a hot air gun for paint stripping. Well, I know when Adrian Black, Adrian's Digital Basement, does it, he has one of those nice desoldering heat gun type things, which probably I should have, but they are expensive. And so far, a sponsor is yet to send me one. Hint, hint. But yes, as you all know, the majority of nice things I have on this channel are very much sent to me from sponsors. This is very much the budget end of YouTube, I'm afraid. I've actually been, the amount of desoldering work I've had to do with students in the past month or so, because I explained with those other boards, the robot challenge buggies they're building, and they're just, some of them are just making, you know, mistakes, putting the wrong bits in, not reading the schematics properly, and putting the wrong like resistors or capacitors in, or you know, and so I am having to spend a lot of time teaching students how to desolder, or basically we're getting to the point where they're getting impatient and they're just like pulling, they're gonna like pull the vias through, so I'm like, oh, give it here and let me do it for you. I need to check out the part number on these to see if they're actually suitable, because I don't know if we can fire them off on you know, 5 volts. Should be able to. So yeah, story of my life for that. I mean, don't get me wrong, I don't mind helping students. I mean, that's one of the reasons for having that job, which I have, you know, is working with young engineers of the future. God, that stinks, this one. Paul's there saying, hey, just landed in Chicago, so I'm afraid I can't stay, but we'll watch you later. Oh, well, thank you for dropping by. And wow, Chicago, that's really cool. We'll have to update us on that. But nice to hear from you, Paul. Thanks so much. God, this one is really putting up a fight. I think we might have it. Again, I'm just, yeah, creating quite a lot of solder residue. Do you have any of you remember? They've gone. I think they've all been on the Patreon and members only exclusive playlist now. But some of the very early videos I did, where I did a repair of a BBC Cub Microvitec or Microvitic Cub monitor, CRT monitor, and I was taking chips out, replacing bits on that. And at the time, with the soldering iron, I was doing this. I was holding it down, and I was creating suction like that, and that lifted stuff out. people will go, oh, you're not using the pen right, you're not using the pen right. And yeah, okay, I wasn't using the pen right. It worked really well. But yeah, I remember that. Those videos, by the way, because there were some of the very first done on the channel over 7 years ago. They are still available, but they've sort of been retired from public use or public domain because, you know, things move on and I grow up. But if you want to watch those, you can. You just have to go to the exclusive playlist, which if you are a Patreon member, just look down on the Patreon things and you'll find it. And if you're a YouTube channel member, I think you get it. You should get it in your welcome piece from me. But do go and check that out because there's all sorts of exclusive things. There's a good 30-40 odd videos in the exclusive members playlist. Admittedly, most are retired content. I might need the solder wick on this. Let's see if that's going to budge. Oh no, I think we'll be alright. There we go. Excellent. So, try and get the diodes out. Yeah, diodes might come out. Let's see if we can get them out. Oh, that's a transistor. Yeah. Ow, that's hot. Surprisingly hot, people. There we go. That's come out. I have to see what those are. I don't even know what they are yet, but I'm looking at sort of chunky diodes and going, yeah, we'll take those. There we go. Let me get one of these out. Good if we could. Okay, normally when I do this, it puts up much more of a fight than this. Again, just filling up with stuff off camera. This is kind of where maybe some solder wick might be better. Let's just see if I've got any solder wick, because that will make life a lot easier. Yeah. I definitely know I have some. I'd buy some. But I've got to be honest with you, I've not seen it in a little while. So let's just see if it's in my tools. That sounds suspiciously like a dog. Luckily she's not on her own, so Anna will go to her aid, whatever it is. Definitely been fed. Definitely been fed. Unfortunately, she's going for a second, how can I put this, cycle at the moment. Being solder wick, excellent. Right, she's been on heat once. She's only 15 months old. She's been on heat once, and we're going to have her done. But we keep getting slightly messed around by the vets, unfortunately. So this is solder wick, by the way. I'll just, you know what, sort that. We'll just cut that off. There we go. Right, solder wick or solder braid. Basically, you can use this just to kind of mop up excess solder. Which sort of works. But no, the point I was trying to make with the dog is fortunately back on heat. So yeah. Is that going to come out? It wants to. So no, unfortunately we're going to have it done, and the vet's just messed us up with dates, and now she's back on heat again. So we've got to let that obviously run its natural course, which is annoying. Oh, it wants to come out. Just up burning my fingers. Of course, you've got to be aware that because these are plastic components, you don't want to put too much heat through them, but that looks alright, so that's come off. So should be reusable, which is good. So yeah, I could harvest these. I don't know what this circuit did. I'll be brutally honest with you. Let's take this one off here. I don't know what this was for. It was for an internal study project, so it wasn't. It was academic research rather than tutor or student led. If you know what I mean. So. And I was literally working on something else in the workshop. I was doing, what was I doing? I was rebuilding experimental rigs for engineering students. Basically, a lot of the assets and resources we use at the university are actually in-house, custom-made, built, not rather than being just bought off the shelf. So I was doing that, and then one of the I say doctorates. We have a couple of doctors, you see. So one of the doctors, not medical doctors, or engineering doctors, came in and dumped this straight in the electronics e-waste bin straight next to me, where it sat for several months because I've not cleaned the bins out yet. And I kind of just decided the other day, actually I do need some more relays. So it just made sense to, I don't know, you know, yoik. So By the way, did anybody? We're trying to think now. Did anybody see the review video for the UE2 R1? That video now has. I know you've seen it here on 8 till 8, but that separate video has now gone live. So I'm sure you probably have seen it. Yeah, interesting board that. I know we had a discussion here last week about it and how it's. I don't put it this way. I don't disagree with the comments that were made about it. It's a funny one. I mean, obviously it was sent to me for free, so I reviewed it. And it does it. You know, it's okay. It does its stuff, but there's a lot of other boards, as you quite rightly pointed out. There's a lot of other boards exactly like it in sort of the same marketplace. So yeah, and I know exactly what you mean by that. So I have been asked to do a follow-up review once they've got their tutorials and software, because one of the things that isn't evident in that video at the moment is that you can't the downloads don't work, so you can't reflash the eMMC. Yeah, sorry, tea break. So that was kind of frustrating, which is why I needed to get that language thing sorted out, because it was very clear this wasn't going to work otherwise, which it did get sorted, but it's like, yeah, so as soon as they've got that bit done, it is a very new product, so I think they wanted to get, you know, YouTubers talking about the product and reviewing it ahead of time. But obviously what I'm hoping is that what I was sent was a sample product, and when they have them sorted out for the Western market, all these little issues that I had will be sorted out. So when they have a little bit more to talk about, we'll go back and review that once more, I think. Plus that I want to see what we can actually do with that board. I've got a few ideas, but then again, we've also got lots of other clone boards that are potentially, you know, quite good as well, like the banana pies, which I actually the two recent banana pies we did, the M-Berry range. I actually really like those boards. And now their builds, their operating systems and things actually are ready, you know. The next video I want to do on the channel, next thing we've got to do on the channel will be a video that was taken from this live session for the Sinclair ZX81. And just so if you were with me for that live, you already seen the content, but I've re-edited that live stream into a content video, which will be going live on the channel shortly. Then we're going to look at what we were looking at last week, which I'll do a whole new video on the B-Pi. If you remember the B-Pi build for Raspberry Pi, which gave you the Atari ST gem type operating system. And I know there was a fair bit of interest on that, so I'll do like a full video including how to actually get that to flash and work. I know I was just randomly clicking around and we didn't get too far, but as I said at the time, I didn't know what I was doing, so just going to use a bit of solder wick again. Basically just to try and mop up which is sort of working. Feels like I should flux that actually. Possibly that might make it work a little bit better, but there we go. Let's just, we'll come back to that board, but let's just take a look at one of the other, now PCB boards. Now these might be a little more tricky to take stuff out from. First thing I'll try and take out is the voltage regulator. Because, well, this is classic student soldering for you. This might be a bit awkward to take out. We can give it a shot, see what it does. It might be that I'm better off if I'm going to do that. It might be with these, I might benefit from actually adding solder. When I tell the students if they're trying to take stuff out of these boards, is add solder, because it makes life a little bit easier. Yes, I realised that, Martin. I need to add, I know, I need to add flux, which is in the toolbox, in the boot of the car and not in the workshop. And the other bottle, which I could go and grab, is downstairs, which I might need to go and grab. But yeah, no, thanks for the tip. Yeah, it's one of those, me being lazy. But I should go and do that really, because it'll make life a hell of a lot easier. By the way, anyone want to share in the chat what they've been doing today, this weekend, or what they've got planned? Any interesting, relevant projects or anything like that? Anybody working on anything? If you are and you want to share anything, then please do. I know there's a lot of interest in the ZX81 we're working on, and I will absolutely be getting back to that. I'm still waiting for confirmation on what shows I'm doing. It's looking like, well, I'm hoping it's looking like I'll get into November's Retro Festival in Cambridge again, which is always well, apparently the building hit capacity and there was a queue to get in. So, and I know some of you were disappointed I wasn't there last year. So I really would like to get back there this year. And you're saying I'm going to try Ubuntu on my Pi 5. Yeah, good score. Now I had, when the Pi 2 came out, which, cast your mind back, was it 2014? It's like 2014 or something when Pi 2 came out, which feels like an eternity ago. I tried Ubuntu Mate, as it was one of the supported operating systems for Pi at the time, and really liked Ubuntu Mate. In fact, one of the early videos I did was Ubuntu Mate, and it was before I had screen capture technology, so I literally had a camera pointing at a screen. It was actually a TV set at the time, and yes, I knew this wasn't going to come out very easily. Just bear with me for literally one tick. I am literally going to go run and get my flux. So sorry, just hold that thought. I'll be right back. And I'm back. Sorry about that. Fresh bottle of flux. There we are. So I always had a spare that's been, God, I bought this a while ago, but alcohol-based flux. So just flux that up, which might make life a bit easier. Try not to tip the bottle over this time. And yeah, as you said, flux up the solder wick, which is not a bad idea. But where were we? Yeah, so what build of Ubuntu are you planning on running, Andrew? And what desktop client is that going to be? Just out of curiosity. If you don't know, you don't know. Don't worry about it. But just curious. So, oh yeah, that works. That's so much better, isn't it? Yeah. And I'll read Martin in a minute. I'm just trying to watch what I'm doing. Martin's like, I've not touched my laptop in a few weeks regarding that PCB design, but we'll get to it. Are you building a? Oh, you're building a portable, are you? I didn't realise it was a portable. Interesting. I'd ummed and ahed about doing something like that, but it's time, and if it's worth my time or not, you know. There's so many things I want to do that are interesting, you see. So, I'm sure many of you are probably in the same sort of boat as I am, really. Just not enough hours in the day. Which helps if you actually prime the pump for you. Right, there's practically nothing holding that in now, so this might come out. Oh, it's stubborn. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to clamp it from the other side. And just keep heating up. God, they put this in good, didn't they? Awkward part. Right, let's just see if we can get this to move now. Come on. It's really annoying, stubbornly stuck. So we'll just keep trying again. See if we can get this part out. And you're saying it's the one they offer for the PS5? PS5. Pi 5. Oh, yeah. I haven't looked to see what that is, actually. Because all you ever see is the official build now. They don't really talk about any other systems that they do, or operating systems that they do actually or don't actually support. Are we getting anywhere with that? I'm just breaking it. Yeah. Never know, such an awkward component to get out. Oh, wow. I mean, there's nothing holding this in. It's amazing how it's still clinging on. And I knew the minute I started this was going to be trouble. We're near, sorry, off camera. We're nearly there. We're nearly there. It's going to be a little bit bent up, I'm afraid, by the time I get it out. But... So, for me, because this is a scrap PCB I'm component recovering from, it's not that important if you pull the vias, which are the base of the holes that the pins are sticking in. They're called vias, and it's not so much a problem if you pull those through. Yeah, there we go. Right, that's one row out. Oh dear, that's being a bit of a bent. I mean, it'll bend back again, but it's a bit of a mess. You try not to break the pins either. See if we can get this out. Come on. The Martians just said, more pins, more faff. I know. Tell me about it. Tell me about it. Still a good chunk of solder in some of these. Some of the students honestly can't believe that I even attempt to do stuff like this live. Actually, you know, do electronics and soldering and stuff live on YouTube, and it's like, I know, I do, and people watch me as well. Bad if we just get some of these pins through. I'm trying to think if I can sort of put some pressure on this that way. Like that. Is that out? No. Oh, what? Come on. Bit of technical persuasion. Oh, oh dear. Sort of. Oops, and I've dropped it. A bit mangled though. It's out. Might be reusable, but oh dear. Yeah. No, my goodness, that put up a fight. Should I try taking that switch out? That might be a little bit easier, he says, the famous last words. How are we doing for time? We're all right. We're okay for a tiny little bit of time. So let's just heat up. Again, it's having time to do this sort of quite tedious component recovery work, which is why a lot of people wouldn't bother doing it, and why these just went straight in the bin. But I'm just like, no, if I can get them out and the bits of, you know, work are in reasonable condition, then we'll reuse them. Solder out there. There's a big pile of scrap solder appearing now. Again, this is going to be, it's not even sitting in flush, it's actually, you can see that, it's hanging. So let's see if we can just get this to move. Something's moved, and I fear it's not the pins. Ah, no, it's literally breaking out the oh dear. That's not a happy switch. Ow. That's probably, might have actually cooked it. No, that's not. That it's not the end of the world. It's not that important. That's literally disintegrated. So yeah, that's not going to work. That is annoying. I knew these boards were going to be problematic. Let's see if we can get one of these out. So that might tell me if it's even worth trying, if there's anything we can get out of this. Always these sort of professionally made PCBs are always a pain to get anything off. You saw how easy I was getting stuff off the other board, no problem at all. And yet the minute you come over to one of these, it's not, it's just two singles together, but I'm gonna move, that might move. Oh no, I beg your pardon. Okay, there we are. That did come out successfully. Yeah, we got something out. What's that then, Martin? So for £25 you can get a hot air gun from paint removal, the skating board, etc. It's dodgy, but it works great. I've got a hot air gun. I do have one. Proper old school. I think it's Black & Decker. I do actually have one. Yeah, which is an option. You could do that, I guess. Yeah. Okay, so that came out all right. So yeah, some bits are just going to deteriorate, but others will actually come out. So it's just really, it's trying to just get these, because you know they do have a residual value, and that's why I want to do component recovery. What I really need is one of those like heat solder, desolder gun things. I will try it, but outdoors. Do you mean not in here? On the live stream, as like all the desk starts charring. Yeah. No, joking aside, I will look into that. As always, really do appreciate the suggestions and feedback. That's one thing I really do like about this channel. I'm not sort of big-headed enough to sort of not listen to other people, if you know what I mean. So always happy to take on board. Overheated PCB stink. Yes, I could well imagine with all the solder masks and lead stuff. Yeah, that's all right. We'll just create a sort of. It's all right for you watching. You don't have to smell it or breathe it in. It's just You just don't want the conscience of killing a YouTube host, Martin. That's basically it, isn't it? What do they call it? Darwin Awards, isn't it? For people who kill themselves in the most stupid way possible. Which would be convenient, considering I currently broadcasting to you live from the actual home of Charles Darwin, his birthplace. And I'm not making that up. He was actually born and raised here, so. Yeah, I'm going to have a Darwin Award. Do it in his hometown. disappearing off camera here. See if that'll come out. Ow, it's getting warm. There we go. Yeah, these are coming out all right, relatively intact. So it's just stuff like this that's worth saving, as I said. And there's a fair bit more to do on this board. Right, well, I think, looking at the time, I think we might leave it there tonight. Because obviously I know this is as riveting as it is, but I think I've covered everything I wanted to talk about. Yeah, so I'll come and look at the mess in the morning and go, what on earth was I thinking? Yeah, so there we go. Right, so yeah, so just want to say thank you once again, everybody, for joining me this evening. I'm not sure what we'll do next week. Next week will very much depend now on if I've got a 3D printed shell done for a ZX 81. If I've got a shell 3D printed, and I mean, I could just knock one out, you know, without making any modifications, which means the RAM pack would still be like super wobbly. But basically, I could do that if we had a body shell ready to go. I'm just thinking, it's that membrane keyboard that's the problem. Saying that, even if we just run it with the PCB just down on the desk again, we could try loading some tape stuff in, see if it actually runs software. We could do that. That's a possibility. I do have other soldering projects that need doing. We do need to start Gertmon's Kim 1 clone, Kim 1 Uno, which I really, really want to do. And we've still got Tiny Basic stuff that needs doing. So there's plenty of projects. Before I go, does anyone have any preference for next week? Or would you like me just to make it up as we go along? Let me know, kind of, you know, if you want me to go back and we want to do some ZX81 stuff, we can. I'm just thinking about the 3D print because I want to modify the case. So I need to look at the ESP32. I want to have an ESP32 coprocessor inside the ZX81, so I can do VGA out and fast loading. So again, that's another thing we need to do. So Andrew D, freestyle is cool. Okay, well, I take it everyone's pretty cool then. We'll do something next week. Yeah, okay, no problem then. Right, so well, in that case, do come and join me same time next week for a surprise of what we may or may not be doing. I always say there's always a caveat that I intend to be here. It just depends if I'm super tired or get busy or something. Then it may be that we don't do next week, but it's my intention to be here, put it that way. What I will say is we will need to bring this season of the live show, season 2, to an end. But I will intend to be back very, very soon. So we may have something like a fortnight break or something. And I'm thinking probably the end late spring. So we'll run for another month or two, I think. Then we may have month. We'll see where we are at the end of February, beginning of March. We may take a week or so off, fortnight off, and then we'll come back with a season 3, if you know what I mean. Now, many of you that are Patreon and YouTube channel member backers will know that this channel is meant to be going for a graphical overhaul. So we're meant to be changing the graphics and the visual look and feel of the channel, including a switch from the current 720p to full 1080p HD resolution. So a break in this show would be a good time, because this show will also need to switch over to the new format. So yeah, I'll have to plan that. But yeah, basically what I want to say is that maybe a little bit of time I take off from live streaming, and I would, as you as an audience, I would like you to be able to come back again, so I don't lose everybody. Obviously, it's up to you, and as I said, I really appreciate all of you that do come back every week to watch me, and those of you that watch back on demand catch up on the channel itself. So if you're watching me back as a recording, this has been a great recording tonight, I tell you, desoldering. I think I mentioned before, I used to have a radio show. Wi-Fi Sheep, by the way, if you don't know, started as a podcast radio show, but I used to have a live FM radio show. My first radio programs were on Cornish local radio. That's right down in the southwest of England. And it was licensed FM broadcast radio. And I used to do a quite terrible radio show. Then I switched to, I was the breakfast presenter. Many people won't notice, I had a breakfast radio, pop culture radio show in Wolverhampton, here in the Midlands, on a station called Kick FM. And it was sort of, for those of you in the UK, you'll know what Radio 1 is. It's the BBC's national, I'd say youth pop culture station for sort of, 12 to, I'd say 18, probably no, 25, 12 to 25 kind of age range. Possibly a little bit older, but you get the gist. And basically the scope for me was to mimic that show. And it was the worst, cringeworthy, embarrassing radio broadcast I've ever done. Because I have never been cool or popular, and I sound very, I have a very accent neutral, middle class English accent, which doesn't work for kind of youth cult radio, if you know what I mean. Basically, I sounded too posh, and I wasn't down with it, and I didn't know what the hell I was playing, and it was an absolute nightmare. And I just sounded awful. When I switched to doing the Wi-Fi Sheep radio show, which, by the way, you can watch those. They were recorded. It's the first thing we did. If you're on, again, they're on our members and Patreon backing playlist. So they're not general public anymore. But basically, you can watch back those early podcasts, technology podcasts that we did. And they were available on YouTube. And we also had them as audio, went out on a radio station called, what was it called? Soundwaves? Something like that. Soundwaves Radio or something it was called. Which was in Bognor Regis, of all places, in England. Sort of in the south of England. And the programmes were made in, that's when we had the studio and the workshop in Kidderminster. Which is Worcestershire, which is like the next county to where I am now. And they were made then. Anna co-hosted with me, and it was originally the Wi-Fi Sheep radio show. And then I started doing like little tech videos on YouTube around the show. That kind of, the tech videos are more popular than the 2-3 hour long podcast was. So that's why this channel originated from. The point I'm trying to make, because I know I've gone off on a little tangent here. The point I was just trying to make is that this is a bit like kind of like a radio show, but this wouldn't work in an audio only format. And I was just thinking, if for those of you that are going to listen back to this, and you're just going to hear sort of me complaining and clunks and me trying to struggle with PCBs, it's going to make amazing radio, amazing audio. So the visual element does work quite well. It's quite nice to have, but this is kind of how I approach it. There is an idea in the pipeline. Again, it's time, unfortunately, which is my biggest enemy, to do a new radio show podcast type format. So Wi-Fi Sheep, but in an audio only format, as well as, it's not instead of anything, it would be as well as. But that would actually strictly be sound only. I wouldn't do video recording for that, and it's an idea that's sort of been bubbling around because I've been in talks with some. For those of you that are ham radio or CB radio enthusiasts, you'll know all about shortwave, which is international analog broadcast radio, and it's fully legitimate and legal, and you can buy airwave space on frequencies. There's a couple of US stations, and there's also one called Channel 292 in Germany, here in Europe, and I can pick up America, and I can pick up Germany very easily from here just with a battery powered shortwave radio. You don't need any special apparatus. So I was umming and ahhing about making a new radio series, less sort of news and reviews talk radio, and more kind of Wi-Fi sheet project type stuff, but in an audio format, and actually renting analog international airtime, and actually having a dedicated Wi-Fi sheet broadcast radio station with an analog tunable frequency that you could actually tune to, primarily across. It would pick up in US, but primarily across the entire of Europe. And that would also include, well, that would be Western Europe, Central Europe, and Eastern Europe. North Africa would probably pick up, and Russia and the Baltics would also be able to pick it up just from one transmitter in Germany, which is quite impressive, and that's kind of where shortwave works very well. The signal would be poor, it would be fuzzy and crackly, and it's mono only, so it's not like, you know, FM radio by any stretch of imagination, but it's listenable. It's a bit like if you listen on medium wave or AM. It is AM radio, but it's in a shortwave frequency. So I'm umming and ahhing about doing something like that. The plan being that the programs would go out free on analog international radio, and the clean, crisp digital versions would be given to Patreon and YouTube channel backers. Could have the on-demand clean digital versions. Yeah, so it's something I'm seriously considering, and I've had discussions with broadcasters and owners of licensed international radio apparatus to actually launch a dedicated station. So we'll see how that works. It was a plan 2 years ago and it hasn't gone anywhere, but I'd really like to do a kind of it would be kind of a bit like a radio series. Well, it would be a radio series, but it would be an audio-based version where we'd talk about topics and subjects, but in a non-visual manner, if you know what I mean. Martin there saying you could do live on both formats at the same time. You mean be live on radio and be live here at the same time? I had thought about it. Could this show morph itself into a format that would work like that? Bearing in mind, I'm only planning of renting about half an hour to an hour of airtime a week, because it's going to cost, it's going to be a couple of £100. It's not ghastly expensive, but it's going to mount up. You could easily start spending thousands renting international transmitter space. So I need to think long and hard about if this is worth doing, considering you're going to get a lot better picture and sound quality on the internet. But there are advantages to having a radio show, because it can act as an advertising model for the channel. So people might then come to YouTube as a result of hearing it on the radio. And obviously then, if people want to get a crystal clear version of the show, because some areas will be barely audible to be able to hear it, you can join the Patreon or YouTube channel members to get access to crystal clear on-demand versions you can listen to in your own time zone. So there's it's what's called a barker station. Basically, it's something that barks yap about a bit. I should get the dog to bark, really. That would be more appropriate. But so it would basically act as a big advert for Wi-Fi Sheep, but also allow me to sort of discuss things in an English language international radio service. So yeah, it's a plan. I did talk about this 2-3 years ago on the Patreon and channel members only. Actually, it wasn't even channel members, it was just Patreon, wasn't it, at that time? Patreon members thing, and I was talking about possibility of doing a radio show, and I would like to. It would literally have to be a scripted, produced thing, which I can do. I've said I've worked in radio, and I am actually trained to do radio. That's one of the things. That's what my degree was broadcast production and engineering. So it's very much in my remit and capability. But again, it's time, it's money, and I don't have money. I can afford to do this, but it'd be nice to be able to fund this on Wi-Fi Sheep's budget, which does mean taking money out of other things, which is a bit awkward. But we'll have to see. Time is the enemy. I don't have time. That's the problem. So we'll see. But yeah, it might be nice, even if it doesn't make it to international shortwave, to maybe put a pilot show together. I could probably do a half-hour pilot, no problem, and share that with Patreon and YouTube channel members. Yeah. Anyway, there we are. So we've now gone 5 minutes over the deadline because I've been ranting, but not ranting, thinking aloud. But yeah, that's another project to do. So there's plenty of stuff we can do here on Wi-Fi Sheep. As I've said to you all along, I'm in no way short of content or ideas. I'm just seeing what mine's saying. So when you go live for the first, yeah, but I rant. That's the problem, Martin. When I go live, I'm late. I'm always late. That's the problem. Minutes and news reviews. It could be broadcast. Yeah, it's an idea, isn't it? Yeah. That's what late to 8 means. Yeah, it's an idea. I'd have to think about it, because it would be a fundamental change of format for that first half hour. But I'll have to think about it. But there are possibilities. So anyway, but thanks for your feedback. I do appreciate that. Yeah. I had crossed my mind about could I reuse existing content in an audio format / making new content, but I don't know. We'll see. I'll have to think about it. Yeah, I mean, the rental costs aren't huge, but they do start stacking into the hundreds quite quickly. So the show would need a revenue model to fund itself. So I'd have to have a think about that. But anyway, right. Well, that's it for tonight. So thank you everyone for joining me. We'll do this again, all things being well, next week, same time at 8 o'clock or 2000 hours GMT. Until then, have a fantastic rest of your weekend. Happy New Year, or Happy New Chinese New Year for Year of the Dragon to you all again. And yeah, we'll see you next week. So until then, look after yourselves, and may I wish you a very good night. Good night.